Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, oh, you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we are going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home. And we're going to start off with the one, the only Miss BamBo.
Hi, I'm BamBo is BamBo on Discord. I am the significant other for author M.D. Boncher, and I have my own Substack as well. Just kind of, I'm the part-time writer supporting his full-time writing career.
So she is Miss Boncherie.
Yes.
All right. Next, we have the one, the only, the many personalities of Jana S Brown.
What? Where? Who? Oh, what? Me? Hi. I'm Jana S Brown. I also write under the pen name Jena Rey. That's the one that. Well, for this one, actually, Jena Rey is important because that's why I write science fiction, fantasy, and other things. Jadelyn Asher is my romance pen name, and because we're talking bromances, and there are some places where that all connects together, all the pen names are valid and, all those kind of good things. And I'm happy to be here.
And we are happy to have all of you here today.
Me too.
And next, we have Mr. J.R. Wise, the other J.R., the skinnier version.
Whoa. I don't know, man. I got pretty pudgy over the holidays. I'm a former Marine, amateur science fiction author, and I just like to talk about nerdy stuff.
You can't call yourself an amateur anymore because I know of at least one person who bought your book, and once you get paid, you are a professional.
Fair enough. Okay.
Woohoo!
Semi-pro, maybe.
There you go. I know I bought the Hampton VA Center, like there's the quadriplegic ward there, so they always want book donations. So I ordered 4 of yours to paperback to drop off. So you've got at least 4 sales. That does make you a professional.
Ooh,
that's great.
Thank you.
So they had all of my books already, so I had to get another JR.
Hopefully it's not
Reasonable.
just Marines going there.
A lot of the quad ward is a lot of Vietnam guys who've been there pretty much ever since. So they like it when we drop off books or visit and just play checkers or chess or whatever. So
That's pretty cool.
It's one of those things I do more for me than for them. I know they get stuff out of it, but for me, it's nice just to be able to do something for other people. So, all right, next we have Mr. Matthew Bowman.
Hi there. I am a science fiction and fantasy editor now with 15 years of experience. I managed to hit another milestone because this month marks 15 years in the biz. I mostly just help other people with their words, including my wife's books over here, but I'll shamelessly plug hers. Where
That's a good husband should.
Yep. She writes space noir, like Space Cops. Try her series. And I have been known to dabble in some short fiction as well as an ongoing serial on Royal Road that people are clamoring at me to do. There was a bit of a medical hiatus for a while there, but that will hopefully end very soon. Hopefully by the time this airs.
When you get your 5-year and your 10-year award, they generally give you cookies, but at 15, they just give you bottles of Advil after 15 years in the business. So
I had to take some Motrin today, so yes. that literally, yeah.
Advil and wrist braces for the carpal tunnel and
or a microphone to dictate. That helps.
I have actually been so busy lately. This is not even a joke. This is not even an excuse. This is just reality. I completely forgot to shave for this particular podcast until I saw my face looking at me and was thinking, it's too late.
Nah, ride the beard, man. Ladies love the beard. All right, last but certainly not least, we have the one, the only Miss Melissa McShane of War Master fame.
It's never going to stop, is it?
I did that one on purpose, at least, because
I know. At least you didn't do it by accident. I think at this point it's on purpose, so that's okay.
Absolutely.
I'm Melissa McShane. I have written many many books and in many series. My current series is the War Master series, which is lit RPG fantasy adventure. And I am interested in all things bromance. Just gotta say.
And if you go online and you type in War Hamster, aside from the Air Force medic who does like the TikTok videos, or did, I guess TikTok will have disappeared before this airs, you find a lot of mice with guns, but not a lot of hamsters. So but if you go down deep enough, you will find the Hamster Paladin.
Mm-hmm. Hamster Paladin is pretty cool. I think it needs to come into a book that I write sometime. I've
thought about it. Like when we were kids, we all read the books where like the characters were animals, the anthropomorphic like main characters. I almost want to do that where it's like the hamster.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's some guy swerves and doesn't kill it. So like, the trope where it follows it around.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
There's something there. Take the joke and make it real.
Right.
No. One of the friends of the show, William S. Frisbee Jr., which is what he publishes as, was a former Marine, and we made jokes with him about My Little Ponies and Space Marines, and he actually wrote that into a series, but it wasn't like My Little Pony. That was the start. So you can take weird ideas and turn it into awesome stories.
That's right.
Jim Butcher did a whole series based on a prompt of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was something else. I thought it was two things they said.
Pokemon and the Roman Legionnaires.
I thought it was the Roman Legion and something religious. But
no,
okay.
it was Pokemon.
Isn't there one where he writes about like the elements and the runes and stuff?
They're elemental spirits called Furies.
Okay, that's the Pokemon tie-in. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But all righty. All right, now this is the Blasters and Blades. So some things will never change, and we will have to do the religion question. Are you, ladies and gentlemen, ready for this?
All right.
All right. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Starsky and Hutch, or Silverado. Nick, since you're at the top of the Brady Bunch square, you get to go first today.
Oh, man. Top square. Let's see here. God, they're all good. I'm going to go with Silverado.
Okay, what's that? Any particular reason?
It's your question, Yar. You don't know what Silverado is?
No, I said why. Why, not what. Why?
Why is that? What is that? Because it's a Western, classic Western. I mean, like I said, all the choices were good. I don't know. I remember seeing it as a kid, and I don't know. I liked it, especially Kevin Costner's character as the cocky gunfighting kid. Jumping off the roof onto the horse and stuff. So like it just spoke to me as a young man, as a young child, and I thought it was cool. And it had a great cast. And it holds up still. I watched it like 6 months ago. It was on TBS, and I just sat down and watched it. And I was like, oh yeah.
A lot of the old Westerns surprisingly hold up well.
Yeah.
They didn't rely on like props that would age. I mean, when they were on horses, they were literally on horses. When they were on the saloon, they had built the saloon on set. So it allowed it to age, I think, pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
It was all practical effects and stuff. It was just
so they had to rely on actual actors and actresses acting instead of just dancing on a green screen, which, I know that's shocking for Hollywood, but it works sometimes. All right, next.
Good stories.
Yes, they had good stories. All right, next we got Miss Melissa McShane.
I'm going to go with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid because I am a big fan of William Goldman. Okay. And so I've read the screenplay and read him talking about the movie and making the movie. And it just, it made it even more interesting to me to see the behind the scenes, by the writer. It was just really cool. So that's my choice.
Do you think the behind the scenes and reading the script is worth doing? I haven't actually watched that version or read it.
Yes, because William Goldman was a screenwriter. I mean, he wrote The Princess Bride, okay?
Right.
And so that's really what he's most famous for. But he was a screenwriter before he was a novelist, really. And so his insights into movies are really worth looking at, even though what he wrote, like his book Adventures in the Screen Trade, is pretty old now, but he looks at not only the movies he wrote, but other movies, and he analyzes how they work. And he's just really, he loves them So it's not like this analytical, cold, distant thing. It's him getting in there and talking about stuff he loves. So, and I think the Butch Cassidy is in Adventures in the Screen Trade. I think that's right. But it's like it's either that or Which Lie Did I Tell, which is the sequel. But it's got the whole screenplay, and you can read it and see the difference between what made it into the movie and what didn't, and he'll talk about stuff that happened during the filming, and it's just really cool.
All right. What about you, Melissa?
That is Melissa.
She is Melissa.
I mean, Jana, I am so sorry.
Are you going to be the other Melissa today? Is that how this is going to work?
I could totally do that. I could just take that on as another
Well,
pen
you
name.
do edit the War Hamster.
And,
so.
and a new personality was born right here.
Right here now. So
now I'm
and
scared.
see, actually, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is my favorite among that list. I remember watching those on Saturday afternoons, and I liked that one. And the other one with a very similar cast that I really love is The Sting. Because Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was very much the action-adventure kind of thing. The Sting was a heist movie. And seeing them do kind of Western heist, I adored that. And it's the first place that I heard The Entertainer, which then I had to go and learn on the piano because it was just such a fun song. So all of that connects together as great bromances and great music.
The Sting was one of the lists when I started Googling movies that had bromances in them.
I love The Sting.
On the list as well. But I hadn't seen that one, so I tried to stick to ones I'd seen.
Oh, you should see it. You like it.
You definitely should see it. See it without knowing what it's about.
Yes.
Other than that it's a Sting. Don't go into it knowing anything about the plot.
We do
know that the music, The Entertainer is there, and it's amazing.
Occasionally on Tuesdays at right while the kids at school, one of the guys I deployed with who didn't make it, but his son is still around. We do it's a weird app that I can't pronounce, but we'll watch movies together through that. And he always finds the most random he's a film critic major, which basically means he wants to be a barista for the rest of his life. So I get to hope he doesn't watch this. But I told him that.
Wendy's. Can we get my fries?
Right. But he finds weird ones like that sometimes. So I'll have to throw that into the list. All right, Miss BamBo.
I'm going to have to break the mold because I did not like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And we actually sat down and watched it a couple of weeks ago, back before Christmas. And I did like it. But I will say Starsky and Hutch, but not the movie. I am a purist. I want the TV show. Give me David Soul and Paul Michael Glacier any day.
Okay. Solid answer. Can't go wrong with that one. All right, next we got Madam Stabby Stab of Clan Stabby.
What do we all know about Stabby? Stabby goes off script.
Uh-oh.
I have to say, all those are really great. I do love watching Starsky and Hutch. It's a solid one. But I have to go the Lone Ranger with his bestie Tonto.
Okay.
That's good.
All right.
That is
Yeah.
an acceptable substitution.
Yeah.
That bromance always held a special place in my heart. So
I grew up watching the black and white original version of that too. So that's right up there. I hate myself. I judge myself harshly for not having had that on the list.
that's what happens when you make the list without texting Stabby first.
This is all my fault. I'll do better. All right, JR.
I'm gonna go with Silverado. Love West. It's a really good Western, and honestly, anything that was made in the 80s and has Danny Glover in it, I'm about.
Okay. What about you, Matt?
Of those three, I didn't know we were allowed to go off script, but I'm going to stick to it this particular time. But the genie has come out of the toothpaste tube, so I might have to think of that later. But for this particular list, I already had my answer, which was Silverado.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that the relationship between the characters, between this group of men, is what makes the movie. This was a movie that came out in the 1980s. The age of, every fifth movie was a Western was gone. People weren't clamoring for Westerns by themselves, but this was such a positive movie because that while it's a fairly familiar Western formula, the thing that makes it is those characters, the way they interact with each other. They basically find each other, they form a bond, they succeed against adversity, and then at the end they split up into groups, they go separate ways, but their experience together has changed them in a way that will affect them the rest of their lives and also the people they interact with afterwards. So I'd say that is a very good candidate for a bromance here.
Okay, so for me, it would be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I grew up watching that with stepdad. That and Lone Ranger were some of the staples if I stayed home sick. I would watch those two, and then I would Rambo 1, 2, and 3 back to back. And if you do that, by the way, you will find his cars move around. They are not consistent. But yeah, so for me, it'd be of that list, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. But because I didn't think of it, I will allow the Lone Ranger as well. All right, and because we are polytheistic, and we're going to bring it a little bit forward to the modern era, we've got Dumb and Dumber, Step Brothers, or The Hangover. Nick, I know you're chomping at the bit for this one.
Oh, it's Step Brothers. That movie's hilarious. You gotta call.
Did we just become best friends?
Oh,
that is an awesome movie.
Yeah, Randy Johnson's signature on a katana, because you just do not get his signature. It's all I had.
Right. All right, Melissa.
I have to admit, I have not seen Step Brothers, and I feel the lack, really do. Because, yes, exactly, Nick. That's because I like those actors, and so I don't know why I've never seen it. But that means I picked Dumb and Dumber because I did not like it when it came out. I thought it was too dumb, and I didn't like that kind of humor, and it's grown on me over the years. So it's
That's
just
how Anchorman is
I
with
like
me.
it better. Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
Dumb and Dumber did give us that that famous line where he asked the girl out, and she's, tries to politely reject him, and his answer is, "So there's still a chance."
Yeah.
What
So
guy in
you
the
tell
bar
me
hasn't
there's a
used that line since the movie came out?
Yeah.
The lovely accent you
So,
have there in New
yeah.
Jersey.
So yeah, Dumb and Dumber.
Okay, Jana.
I cannot help you on this one because this is a category of movies that I just don't watch. I grew up with enough brothers that did stupid things that I did not watch movies about romances where they went around doing dumb things. So I'm going to plead the fifth on this one.
Your sons didn't watch it?
Nope. No, my sons lived it though. My son and Melissa's son.
Mhm.
At
my
one
gosh.
point, our children decided to watch Mythbusters, which we thought was a great idea because you learn things by watching Mythbusters.
Educational.
But,
Yeah.
But what they learned, and I have two boys, and by age, her son fits right between my two boys. So the three of them were thick as thieves growing up. They are still best of friends, all these kinds of things. And at one point, they're at my house in the basement, and I go down to get something, and I go into the room, and here are three boys, and one son has got a hold of the other kid and is holding his eyes open while the third boy shoves a thing of pepper in his face. And I went, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, on Mythbusters, it said that if you sneeze with your eyes open, we're seeing if you can sneeze your eyeballs out. So we're going to see if, can we make him sneeze? And if he hold his eyeballs open, then he'll sneeze his eyes out." And I just looked at the three of them and went, "What are you going to do if it works?" And they just looked at me, and I walked away because that's all you can do as a mother at that point is just leave them to find out whether or not they truly can sneeze out their eyeballs, and what are they going to do if these eyeballs just shoot out and they're hanging there on little eye stalks. So that's the bromance that I lived when it comes to things like Dumb and Dumber. I lived with this. I did not need to watch movies. That would be my favorite one that would go in that category.
Mhm.
So.
Nick, sounds like Friday night in the barracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where most of your deployment. That's when you watch the dumbest movies you wouldn't normally watch.
Yeah. So Jana, who's who in the three Musketeers? Like, who's Athos? Like, have they assigned roles?
No, that's a good question. I don't think so because they'd overlap some. There's no clear contender for each one.
Okay.
There would be a rotation between the three depending on what the activity was. Because they are, like say, thick as thieves, the three of them, and they still to this day play board games and online games and
get together for dinner and have charcuterie boards because they are, young men of a certain age, and that's what they do. Yeah. Yes.
But
so it's cute. They are a real life Dumb and Dumber. So they're adorable.
Because I am sure that is not the only thing that they did like that. Mm-hmm. And if I thought about it, we could probably come up with 3 dozen stories, and that wouldn't be the half of what they actually did that we don't know about, because they figured out at some point to, what they would do if the eyeballs came out. Because that was the question, was if it works, what are you going to do?
When you do those things, you can't let the parents know, because I made the mistake of introducing my mother to one of my army buddies, and he started telling stories out of turn. And she's like, you did what? And I'm like, he wasn't supposed to tell.
Uh-huh.
All right, Miss BamBo.
The only one of that list that I've seen is Dumb and Dumber, and that was probably 30 years ago. So
don't you lie, the movie is not that old.
I do not remember much about that movie at all. Well, if you think about it, it's been 30 years since the 90s.
No, it has not.
Oh,
yes, it has. You're that old.
Unfortunately.
1994.
Mm-hmm. So I'm like, it's close to it, and I don't remember it. So I'll go with it by default, just because it's the only one on the whole list I've actually seen.
Fair. All right, Stabby Stab. Tell me what list you're gonna avoid. Do I need to read you the options again?
Okay, no, because I can see them over there. I like all those movies. But I mean, there's so much goodness in all 3 of those movies. There really is. And being born and raised in Vegas, I mean, The Hangover. Hello, watching and like picking apart the story just cracked me up the whole time, because even me working at the casino could not get on the roof of a casino. How the heck did he get up there? I still have questions. But going off script, Sherlock Holmes and Watson.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you cannot have a romance without Sherlock Holmes and his best bud Watson. But I mean, I can keep the list going with Supernatural, with Sam Dean and Cass, or Shaun of the Dead, or
you're doing the show notes now. You're just going too nuts.
Leave some for the rest of us, Madam Stabby.
There is so much goodness in the bromance category, and unfortunately, I would know all about this with my 6 brothers. I never got to choose the movies. So there's just too much goodness in this category.
Because you were outvoted? Is that what happened?
Always.
Ain't democracy a bitch. All right. Next, we have Mr. J.R. Wise.
I'm going to go with Step Brothers. It's probably one of the funniest movies ever. I was in the Marine Corps when it came out, so we walked around quoting that movie for probably 2 solid years after. And just beyond being really funny, the 2 characters actually kind of grow. They have a really good story arc if you sit back and analyze it from a storytelling perspective, and you kind of ignore all the ridiculousness that is Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. But I mean, it is hilarious. There's so many great quotes, and like I said, it's actually pretty well told story.
And did we just become best friends? Floats around that meme in so many circles.
That is not the biggest one that gets used in our house, though. So if you guys remember, a couple seasons ago, me and Nick were right next to each other. Our computers were right next to each other. And we were in the tiniest office. So when we got the new house, and you can see him in the background right there. The first words out of our mouths in this house once we had our computer set up was, look at all this space to do activities.
Okay, fair. All right, Matthew Bowman, you are looking like you're chomping at the bit to weigh in on this one. And now you can go off script. It's like, woo, we've been unleashed.
Especially since I haven't seen any of these 3.
What have you been doing with your life?
It's just not my style of comedy.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't enjoy it. But if you want a very silly, kind of out there version in there, in order to fit the theme as best I can for this, I will have to go with a Chinese show, Handsome Siblings. It's on Netflix. It's an adaptation of a very famous Chinese novel. Takes place in a slightly fantasy Chinese setting, and it's about two guys that have been raised to kill each other, and the audience knows from the very first episode that they were born non-identical twins, fraternal twins. It's an elaborate revenge plot, and the whole story is about them rapidly becoming friends despite the fact that they both know that they're supposed to kill each other. It is a great show. And it is one of the best bromances out there. And it does get very silly at times. I will probably talk more about it in this episode.
Okay.
That almost sounds like Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe.
Actually, yeah, a little bit. Except they hate each other a lot less.
All right. But wait, there's more. So we've got Top Gun, 310 to Yuma, or Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Nicholas.
Let's see here. I'm going to have to go with Top Gun. I haven't seen Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. 310 to Yuma is good. I don't know if we're talking about the remake or the original. Doesn't matter. They're both good. But Top Gun, come on. I feel the need for speed. Come on. I work in San Diego. I see that stuff all the time. You know, I live in the Top Gun environment.
Yeah.
So many inappropriate jokes, but we're a family-friendly podcast, so I am going to slide right into the next.
And I do occasionally play topless volleyball. Just saying.
Melissa, save us from ourselves.
I'm sorry. Okay, I admit I have only ever seen Top Gun in this list, but I would probably pick it anyway because I love that movie. And I love the characters.
And the music, oh my goodness, that was one of the amazing soundtracks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was my era. So definitely Top Gun.
Okay. Next, we got Madam Jena Rey.
Stabby's laughing at you. No, I have to go Top Gun too, though I will argue that Top Gun Maverick really does recreate a lot of the bromance energy. So, you know, as a next in series, I'll give both of those a really happy, love the bromances there, love just the way that they put it together. So, yep, totally a thing.
All right, BamBo.
Top Gun, because I still argue that 310 to Yuma is not a bromance. So, and I haven't seen The Covenant, but I will, even if it did matter, I'd give it to Top Gun anyway. Clear cut. First one and second one, but first one even more so, I think.
So let's pause when going to ask other people, why is not 310 to Yuma a bromance?
Because they're not friends. They're not buddies. They grow to respect each other, but they are on complete opposite sides of the aisle, opposite sides of the fence. They didn't come into this knowing each other. They spent the whole time, the one guy's hauling the other guy to jail. And yeah, they came to respect each other, but that doesn't qualify as a bromance in my book.
Okay.
I look for that relationship, that bond, that friendship that weathers everything for it to qualify as a bromance to me.
Okay. Enemies to lovers. It kind of falls under that romance trope, which is a lot of bromance does. A lot of bromance has the same beats, the same relationship beats as a traditional romance does under the various categories. It's just that it's not then going in a romance or a sexual direction. And so you do get a lot of bromance that falls under the friends to lovers, where they do become respectful of each other without necessarily becoming buddies, and you still have kind of this bromance feel to it. So that's where I would still make.
I still got to argue. No, I don't think.
Yeah. I
don't
don't buy that either, because I think if it's going to be a bromance, they need to be friends.
Yes.
I think respect is not enough. And so, yeah, I mean, enemies to lovers, yes, because like I want to shout out Hot Fuzz, which is one of my very favorite movies, and they start out Nick Angel starts out despising Danny, and they end up best friends in the end and watching all those movies and so that's what I want out of an enemies to lovers bromance trope. Not just, I mean, and respect is good, but for me, that's not enough. I want them to be buddies. I want them to be friends.
Thank you for reminding me of Hot Fuzz. I take back my answer from the previous one. Pitch Dumb and Dumber, Hot Fuzz is on the list. Absolutely.
So
have you seen Dude, Where's My Car? It's sort of in the same line.
I haven't seen that one yet. No.
All right, Stabby. Top Gun, 3:10 to Yuma, or Guy Ritchie's The Covenant?
It's Top Gun. And I'm going to throw this in here. I love Top Gun. We do live in San Diego. We go to the Midway at least once, the USS Midway, at least once a year. We get to go into the little Top Gun area. It's too much fun. But I'm going to throw this out there in Jana's defense of bromance and romance, enemies to lovers, enemies to friends, whatever. Iceman and Maverick were not friends at all until the end.
Yes,
and then
they became.
And then in Top Gun Maverick, they were best friends.
Yeah. They were not friends by the end of Top Gun. They were respectful of each other. They said, "You can be my wingman any day." They were still not friends. Yeah, it wasn't until the second one that we had any sign that it had then gone from a respectful relationship to a friendship. If we say Iceman is the bromance, it's respect. It's not
no.
What makes Top Gun a bromance is not Maverick and Iceman. It's Maverick and Goose.
Yes.
That's the bromance.
It does. But my point still stands that they went from being enemies to friends, even though it took 2 movies to do it.
But nobody's claiming that Iceman is the bromance in the original one. It's in the second one.
Yes, in the second one.
These two are.
Yeah. No.
The first one is Goose, not Iceman. Sorry.
Goose is dead halfway through, so
yeah, but it's still a bromance. It's still a bromance.
It is a bromance, but there is something that kicks off in that second one. So you actually have it's really multiple bromances, but we kind of end halfway in between the one.
Okay.
I guess it's an Irish bromance, because the definition of an Irish romance that I heard from Dr. O'Donnell back in college was you can always tell when it's an Irish romance because it doesn't end happy.
Yeah.
God damn.
Okay.
Love story, not
JR, we've got Top Gun, 3:10 to Yuma, or Guy Ritchie's The Covenant.
I am also going to go with Top Gun because of the bromance between Maverick and Goose. That is the bromance. Just weighing in on that conversation. Even though he does die like halfway through the movie, maybe not even halfway. It's pretty quick. But like Goose haunts Maverick for the rest of it, and he's still there, like in his head, bugging him and, influencing everything he does. So he's still kind of there. But also, I mean, Top Gun, it's just this over-the-top 80s action movie in like the best and worst ways possible imaginable with that genre. And I had my wife had actually never seen it until a couple of years ago, and we watched it together and we had a great time. And the whole time she's like, "Why is everyone sweating in every scene?" Or like especially the volleyball scene.
It gets hot in San Diego in the summer when there's no breeze off the ocean.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I was stationed out there for a while. It's not that damn hot all the time. And it gets pretty chilly at night. Just pouring sweat at night.
Well, when my father went to Pensacola for flight training, He said that it was the shock of his life because all his life he was he breathed air. He did not drink it. So I imagine that that's part of the problem for a bunch of people there.
Yeah.
And then the locals will tell you it's not so much the heat, it's the humidity, and you'll want to kill them.
A bonfire is a dry heat.
Yeah. All right, Matt, want to weigh in on that movie choice?
All right. I'm going to go with Top Gun as well. And I'll just say that Goose dies at 1 hour, 4 minutes into the movie. It is an hour, 50-minute movie. So
he made it over halfway.
He is there for more than half of the movie. But I'll also argue that it's a movie about two bromances. Because the end of one with its legacy and the start of another. Just as you can have in a traditional romance movie, someone getting over a previous romance and getting the start of another one. And then the thing that I will also add in there in defense of 3:10 to Yuma is that it is not mere respect, because if it was mere respect, the bad guy who's being taken into prison would not have put his hands back together and boarded the train by himself out of the memory of the guy that was taking him in. He just said, well, that was a good man. Sucks that he died, but I'm going that way. No. He decided that he would complete that guy's job at the expense of his own life. And you don't get much more bromancy than that.
Nope, I still got to disagree on that one.
That's fine.
I still disagree on that one. Sorry. I mean, it's one thing to come to respect somebody, and even if you watch that movie, even if you're watching the remake with Russell Crowe, you look at the character that he was playing, and he was really becoming depressed with life too. So it's more of, to me, it was more of he was looking for, okay, this is the opportunity to get off this outlaw trail and finally end this. I don't see this as that does not follow my definition of romance.
We found the hill that BamBo dies on.
Sorry, I'll back off on the whole Top Gun one, but I'm going to die on the hill for 3:10 to Yuma. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with BamBo on that. Because it's not no matter how much you respect them. I want when it's a bromance, I want them super close. I want them best friends. I want it borderline homoerotic, honestly.
So basically, the infantry.
Yes, every
I grew up
single day in the
on
infantry.
all kinds of TV shows. I mean, I was always gravitated if it was a story about brothers or two friends, guys that were friends as close as brothers. That was up my alley. So even if there was a little bit of tension between them and they were constantly poking at each other, that was just brothers. Family Channel used to have a TV show called Border Town, which was it's Canadian Mountie and its U.S. Marshal, both keeping peace on a town that was exactly split by the U.S.-Canadian border. And they were constantly sniping at each other, but yet when one of them got in trouble, the other one was right there to help them out. I mean, they were just like brothers. I was a huge fan of Hardy Boys growing up. I watched Bonanza. I watched Big Valley because of the brother relationship. That's Magnificent Seven, the TV series, and the movies. It came down to that relationship and that friendship with each other that defines that whole genre for me.
Okay. With that. But wait, there's still more. 21 Jump Street, Lethal Weapon, or Bad Boys. We're doing a little bit of that police action. Nick. You muted.
I know. I unmuted it. You got to wait. There's a delay as I'm on satellite. Let's see here.
Well, while you look that up, I'll answer that. For me, it's Lethal Weapon, and I still remember the later in the series where Danny Glover's character would rather have IA investigate him as a corrupt cop than admit he was writing romance novels on the side to earn his money.
Yeah. So now I have my answer ready. It is also Lethal Weapon because who doesn't love Merton Riggs? The whole "I'm getting too old for this shit" trope. And
I love that.
He was only like 40 years old when he filmed that, and he looked a lot older. I don't remember looking like that when I turned 40 until I started growing a beard. So maybe that's what it was. Because there's a line of there's like, you look younger without the beard or with the beard. I don't know. Something about the beard. But yeah, it's the original Buddy Cops, the original, 80s bromance. And I hope they're supposed to be making like another one. We'll see. But no,
I mean, is it going to be like Danny Glover and Mel Gibson from the geriatric ward? I mean, come on, like this isn't going to.
Yeah, they were already like seasoned veteran cops, like at least 10 years in, maybe more. Here we are, almost 40 years after that movie came out, and they have long since retired. They're going to have to open like a PI business or some shit. There's no way. That's what always made me laugh because, like, especially with Top Gun Maverick, it's like that dude should have retired at least 15 years ago.
And at a minimum, he'd be off flight status. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I don't live too far from NAS Oceana, so I heard all of the pilots complaining about that movie. But I'm like, just shut up and look at the pretty planes.
If anything, he would have been a civilian contract.
The only thing that makes it work, from the general audience thing, is that Tom Cruise just looks so youthful, despite the fact that is he collecting Social Security yet? I'm not sure, but he looks younger than I do. So it's weird. I don't really consider it to be unfair. It's just weird. I got gray in my beard. It's weird.
Okay. All right, Melissa.
Dr. Strange look going on.
Melissa.
Okay, I have never seen any of these movies.
What?
It is sad. What? I know. I don't know how I never saw Lethal Weapon. Okay, honestly, I don't know. But that's okay because I'm going back to my favorite, Hot Fuzz, which is fantastic, has the best relationship between two cops who are utterly different, and each of them is the one to change in the movie. They both change. And bonus mention of Bad Boys 2 in Hot Fuzz. So that's like a, corollary. It's like a sideways attachment to Bad Boys. So yeah, Hot Fuzz.
I mean, if you're going off book and you want cops movies, Chips was a good one too. It was a TV show though.
Oh yeah.
From, was it the 70s? I think it aired based on the clothing.
I did see Chips. Yes.
California Highway Patrol. So, all right, Jana.
I am all about Lethal Weapon. I enjoyed that very, very much. And we were just channel surfing one day and came up when it's the scene where Danny Glover is stuck on the toilet. And they're figuring out how he's going to pull him off and pull the sheet over and everything. And my daughter walks in and she's like, is there some guy sitting on a toilet? It's like, yes. What is this movie? And I'm like, oh, it's great because there's chemistry and stuff here. And she went, and her little 11-year-old self walked out and she was done. But I had to watch it all the way through the end of that scene because I do love that whole, you're not going out of here. I'm not leaving you no matter what. And it was all funny because, yes, he's on the toilet and you've got to be able to pull him in and everything else. But the heart of that scene was that whole, if you're not getting out, neither am I. And I love that in that bromance. And that kind of thing comes up a lot with buddy cops, with military and that kind of thing, that level of sacrifice. It's not just that we're friends, but we're all getting out or nobody's getting out.
Okay. BamBo.
Okay, we have found some common ground because I will go Lethal Weapon all the whole way. So,
Stabby is now going to go off script.
That should just be a segment. I mean, why is this a surprise anymore? We could always touch base on Wayne's World, Rush Hour, Bill and Ted. Those are all such great ones. But I'm going to go with Jay and Silent Bob.
They don't have cop shows. I tried to theme them together.
This is thematic stuff, Sabby.
There's nothing systematic about this show. We all know it. We go off script left, right, and in the center. That's why they call me a chaos coordinator.
All right, JR. Let's bring us back on cop shows.
Yeah, so Lethal Weapon, again.
Excellent answer.
Yeah, 80s Danny Glover movie. Ridiculous in all the right ways for an 80s movie.
Yes.
borderline homoerotic between them at the same time. Like it's got a very Barracks vibe to it at times, and I dig that.
But Danny Glover's character was married, so he had a beard, so it was okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the marriage was the beard, JR.
That's what I just said.
It was also one of the first R-rated movies my dad ever let me watch.
Okay. Did you watch it on TV or in the theater?
TV.
I have made the mistake with my kids of shows that were like, oh, it was out in the 80s and it was on TV, so it's got to be okay. And then you play it and you get to scenes and you're like rushing to cover their eyes. And I'm like, how is this on television?
The opening scene, gratuitous nudity. It was awesome.
It was a different time in the 80s.
All right, Matt, weigh in.
Just on the I will avoid the tangent. I will say Lethal Weapon for all the same reasons that have already been listed. So I won't have to rehash it. It is just a great, I hate you to, I will, give up my life for you, bromance. And so that is the thing that will fit those memes of, he didn't even cry at Titanic watching Lethal Weapon. That's the sort of thing that will get guys.
For me, it was Old Yeller, but okay.
Oh,
I have to make the kids watch it because if I suffered, so should they. That's actually going to be an episode in season 5. Is the IPs that we should pass down.
Yeah. Okay.
Generational trauma is going to be the name of that episode.
There better be some Land Before Time in that one.
I mean,
my wife will not let me show that to the boys.
Why not? They get to meet their gas. Okay.
yeah. My husband would not read Charlotte's Web to my daughter because he is so traumatized by it. And she got it as a school assignment, and she's like, well, we'll read it as a family. And he went, nope and out. Not going to happen. So, yeah, there's a lot of properties.
Okay. All right. And because we've got Nick on the show and he's like the comic book guru friend, we had to have at least one superhero. So we've got Captain America and Bucky, Batman and Robin, or Green Arrow and Speedy. And yes, I realize these aren't particularly shows, but more pairings, but you got to do what you got to do for superheroes. So.
Yeah, we're trying to bring in a new demographic, whatever. I'm not enough to carry it. So we're going to start asking geeky questions so we can let my fellow nerds fight it out. I'm going to answer with, out of those 3, and they're all good. Green Arrow and Speedy is kind of weird, but I digress. I'm a huge Batman fan. Everybody knows that. It's my second favorite superhero next to Daredevil. Daredevil doesn't have a sidekick. So as much as I would love to include him in that, I couldn't do it. I guess I could have said Electra, but that's not a bromance. That's just straight up romance. Maybe Murdoch and Foggy. And that would work. But I'm going to go with Cap and Bucky. Not only in the comics in the beginning and when later on when they decide to retcon and bring Bucky back as the Winter Soldier, and also in the MCU, that through thick and thin, they got each other's back to the point where they're like committing freaking war crimes and shit. So
it's not a war crime the first time. And I will go with
they did it like 3 times.
I mean, it counts. They restarted the count when they went to sleep. I'm going to go with Captain America. I'm not a superhero person, so I haven't seen most of these, but I do know Captain America was in the Army, so we'll pick that. What about you, Melissa? Are you a superhero person?
I have to say Batman and Robin because that partnership has been reinvented so many times over the years. I mean, Batman is a really old superhero in terms of, when he was created. And so people, he comes to a new audience every time, and Robin's always there. And I'm not thrilled about many, there's some of those interpretations that I don't care for because like making Robin a girl and, which is fine, but it's not the bromance that I'm looking for. It's Batman and Robin and how they relate to each other. And the best retellings for me are the ones where they explore that relationship and they don't try to do something weird with it. So just for that for how many different Batman and Robin relationships there have been, that's my choice.
Batman and that led to many arguments when I was at Nick. You'll appreciate this.
And sorry, I should specify that I'm not talking about the movies. I'm talking about comic books. So the movies do their own interpretation, but for me, that's not really Batman and Robin, except maybe Michael Keaton.
The movies really have had a hard time bringing Robin into the fold. I mean,
yeah, that's been really
Batman
difficult.
Forever.
So for me, it's definitely comics. Yeah, it's definitely comics or the cartoon series in the different cartoon series. So sorry, JR. Sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're keeping me on track anyway because I realize we're deep into this, but we're having fun, so it's all good. It's a good topic. Jana.
These are all good ones. I do like Batman, but I'm going to stick with Captain America and Bucky. I like that we actually see Captain America in a lot of different kinds of romances because he and Bucky are the classic ones, but then you see there are places where his relationship with Iron Man sometimes is in bromance territory, sometimes it's in and out there, because you've got two people that they're both leaders, but in such very, very different ways and such a very different background. And there's a part of them that wants to understand each other and that wants to have that friendship, but that they are a lot more off and on than he and Bucky are, because they are, except for when Bucky is brainwashed, which also happened at a couple points in the comics, they're already together. And so the bromance with Iron Man is interesting because there is so much off and on. And it also depends on which version of the comics you're reading, because the whole thing got rebooted multiple times. So you've got times. Yeah. And so every time that they do another reboot, you would get kind of a different painting of how it was that these characters related. And so he was interesting because he had a lot of different characters that he worked with, how he related to the Falcon. The Falcon was a different kind of bromance there. So I like seeing what they've done with Cap and different bromances through his run.
Okay. BamBo?
I'll have to stick with it had to be Batman and Robin for me because I'm not really a comic books fan. So I do know Batman and Robin from the 90s animated series. And
me too.
Looking at it from that perspective, because Robin was so much older. He was college age at that time frame. So you had more of an equals in that particular series between Batman and Robin, and not so much, the mentor and mentee, like when Robin was a lot younger. So I could give you Batman and Robin if it's the animated series. Okay. I can't speak the comics.
Stabby?
I'm going to go with Venom and Eddie Brock. He literally lives inside him.
Oh, okay. I'm going to smile and nod. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. All right, JR.
So I'm going to go halfway off script, sort of. I'm going to go with Batman, but not Robin. Instead, I'm going to say Alfred, because my argument is Batman can still be Batman without Robin. And fairly effectively, Batman could not be Batman without Alfred.
I wish somebody would tell that to whoever it is that killed Alfred off in the comics, because I have heard that one. That Alfred is now dead.
That same rationale, you could argue Batman and Jim Gordon as a bromance.
I was thinking
that's actually a good one.
Yeah, those are both really good.
It also gives you Iron Man and Happy.
Iron Man and Happy. Yeah, well, I mean, Iron Man's Iron Man. You don't need Happy for Iron Man to be Iron Man.
Okay. And all right, Matt. We'll let the married couple argue offline.
Yeah. Well, my thought on this one is that it can't be a bromance without the feeling of being brothers in the first place, which means you have to be equals. So Robin is Batman's ward. It's not an equal relationship, and also Alfred is his father figure. That's also not really a brotherly relationship, even though there is definitely a lot of love there. So you have to have some level of equals in there. And of the three that you provided, JR, the only one that works for me with that particular caveat would be Captain America and Bucky, and only if you use the Marvel movie First Avenger, because that's the only one where they both feel like they are peers. Obviously, Bucky is not the superhero, but he is a trained soldier. Whereas the original Bucky was definitely, somehow the kid's sidekick, even though he's also a trained soldier. It's just something that fit with the superhero tropes of the time. But the one that I think that I would go with the one that people love to use as an antagonistic relationship, one where they have a hard time dealing with each other, but they will absolutely lay down their lives for each other. The classic one in all of superhero-dom, Batman and Superman. That's my pick.
Okay. Stabby, what's in your caffeinated mug today before we air this beautiful commercial?
So Coffee Brain Coffee is clearancing out all of their Christmas and holiday flavors. So in the beautiful mug tonight is sugar plum coffee with French vanilla creamer.
Outstanding. I would ask everyone else, but you answer the same every time, and we're running late on the religion questions because we kept having side discussions, and I'm here for it. So we're gonna.
This one's for Jana. It's Dr. Pepper.
So we're gonna air that beautiful commercial, and then we're gonna come back and talk more broadly about bromances. Boom.
What will you do when the world goes belly up? Will you paint stripes on your cheeks, grab your flaming guitar, and enjoy the glorious post-apocalypse party? Or will you gnash your teeth and wail at the loss of civilization? Either way, we've a story for you. This post-apocalyptic collection has 15 great stories, each with its own spin on our future. Dive right into From the Ashes, a Bayonet Books anthology, before the future becomes now.
Out freaking standing. All right, now welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. With that, we're going to start our term. So I went, like I always do, I went to the oracle of all things that never lies to me except for when it does, Wikipedia, and for the definition of a bromance. A bromance is a very close and non-sexual relationship between two or more men. It is exceptionally tight, affectionate, homosocial male bonding relationship exceeding that of usual friendship, and is distinguished from normal friendships by a particularly high level of emotional intimacy.
So nothing with Spartans in it?
Yeah, basically. Leave the agave out of it. So everyone cool with that?
Yeah, it's a good definition of what the genre is.
So one of the things I notice is that modern Western media, in an effort to be extremely representative of everyone, wants to suddenly relabel things that were normal just 10 years ago as, oh, this has to be gay or this has to be whatever because it fits the modern narrative. So that's one of the things I like about the bromance is it doesn't try to pretend suddenly that it's gay because they're friends and they're close. It says, nope, they're just friends. And so it's one of the things I think there's value in reminding people that you can have close, intimate friends that in a non-sexual capacity. Because I'm sure there's an equivalent of like, I don't know what the sister romance would be, sistermans. I don't know. But
it's the best friends. You see it a lot in mysteries and things like that, where she's always got her very, very best friend, and the two of them are ride or die and whatever. And again, it's very often not a sexual kind of thing, but it's the female best friend, and they're just as ride or die. We just don't have a cool word for it.
We need to work on this. We'll see if we can coin something.
And I would like to also add to that for women, the best friends relationship can be more than two people. You can have three or maybe even four. I think that might be pushing it. But you can have that close relationship between three individuals. And I don't think that happens with the bromance. I think it's pretty much just,
But it's rare.
Well, what I'm
According-
thinking is that when it's more than one, it's two separate relationships or three separate relationships. So I have a close relationship with person A, I have a close relationship with person B, and person A and person B have a close relationship with each other. And I think that for women, it's a little more muddy than that. So yeah, I think it's true you can, but it's not as common with the bromance. I think we're usually looking at just two people, which is just, I don't know. I don't know if it means anything. I just find it interesting.
According to
So-
Wikipedia, who, as we have established, never lies unless they do,
Yes.
there is a female version of a bromance. They use the exact same wording on the definition that JR just put out.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
called a womance.
A womance.
A womance.
I'm
That is a
never
terrible
going to use that
term.
term.
Never heard
I'm
that term.
sorry. Never going to use that term.
I'm just saying.
And,
Sorry, Wikipedia. I know.
That's
I'm saying
all.
sorry, Wikipedia. Yeah.
And if you give us one time $5 donation to our Buy Me a Coffee to fund our overhead, Nick and I will lambast you with what's in our private chat of alternative names for romance for the ladies. But it is definitely going to get us in trouble if we air this on the airways, and Jana will never come back.
Oh, it is like 9 crimes in Europe. We can never post that.
Behave yourself.
All right. So why do you think there is the push to instantly want to turn close personal friendships when they're the same gender into something that is romantic in the body congress sense, instead of just letting them be friends?
I don't know,
Well,
but
I
I've
think
seen that. I've seen a lot of that. I admit I was a fan fiction reader for a lot of different things, and it's like in the last 15 years I've seen that slow push toward that.
It's
Especially
not
the
slow.
younger
It's not
fandoms.
very
It's
slow.
just
No,
everything
yeah.
has turned into a homosexual relationship instead of just letting them be friends. Most of these fandoms, and I feel like they're losing something when they do that. But yeah, Hobbit. I couldn't read Hobbit fan fiction based on the movies because all of it was every bit of it was that. And I don't know if it's just. I don't know if it's that kids don't have, or the younger people don't have a good example of what friendship is supposed to be. I don't know. What has
They don't
kind
have
of,
the social skills that we have.
yeah.
Everything's
I think it
online.
might be
It's very interpersonal.
that
I would
all the
say
friendships
it's
are online these
before
days,
that.
and they don't know how to hang out and how to form bonds with people in person anymore.
I'm only in my lower 40s, and I remember that from when I was a kid. How we were just not supposed to be showing even physical affection for each other. And there was a big joke I remember in college, because the place where I went to college is Northern Virginia, and it was within semi-reasonable driving distance of the Maryland Renaissance Festival, and an ongoing thing that was happening there was it was a comedy duo called Hack and Slash. And they had a bit part in there about how guys give hugs, and how do you get a guy to hug when you're
Bro
a
hug.
guy? And it was this whole thing. It's like, hey, do you want a hug? It's like, no, man. It's like, well, all right, here we go. Bear hugs. Like, oh, all right. Well, we can do a bear hug because that's extra.
No, we
manly.
found the solution, Matthew. It turned into the bro hug. It went in with, like the hand thing. You
Pound it
bring it in,
hard,
and then
yeah.
the double pat on the back.
Yeah.
And you got to slap him
We
enough
just
that he
recently
feels
started telling
it.
each
There
other
must be
that.
violence.
The reason
Yeah.
why I put context in there was that one of my best friends at that college later was my best man, godfather to my first child, all that. We're very close. We were copying that joke, and eventually it just became, when we see each other, we give each other a hug. And it was something that I realized I was missing from my childhood, because something about the way that I was raised meant that I wasn't supposed to have physical contact with other men, with other boys at that particular time. It's just not supposed to. And I think that is very lacking in us. I think it harms social development. And yeah, I think that you can see that in the online culture where we are, even as adults, we mostly communicate like this remotely through a screen because it's so convenient. But we're able to find people that share our interests very easily. But that also means that we don't have that close interpersonal relationship that comes with being in the same room, breathing the same air, and seeing all the minute movements of body language and everything that we're just instinctively designed to communicate with. And I think that plays into that. Where exactly it happened, though, I don't know, because as I said, I remember this, lack in hindsight from my own childhood. And when I was a young child, literally the World Wide Web did not exist.
I'm older than Google, which is awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm older than Yahoo. I'm older than Alta Vista. Everyone remember Alta Vista?
Mhm.
My first computer lessons were DOS-based how to send an email before the term email was actually out in public consciousness. It was still electronic mail. And so this goes back really far, but it was still a shock to me when, as a 9-year-old boy, my father got reassigned to Italy. And this was a culture where boys had physical contact with each other in an affectionate way. And it felt so weird to me, but it was normal. It wasn't supposed to be homosexual. It was just the normal way that men interacted with each other, exactly mirroring the way that friendly women would interact with each other. It was not sexual, it was human.
So at what point, though, does that turn into you have that contact, therefore you must be gay? Which is, the presumption now is, let's look at all of these relationships and see if we can't prove that they're actually gay relationships instead of bromances or close friendships or anything like that. Because I think you're right. It is a new thing, but I'm not sure how new. But the idea of making it happen in fan fiction is as old as Kirk and Spock. I mean, the Kirk / Spock.
I think it really
back to the 70s.
exploded, and really, I guess since about 2010, that was when I really started noticing it, because I was in I would read a couple of different fandoms, and I would see it. Yeah, there was always this side for the slash fanfic. That was always on the side, but it didn't seem to permeate the entire fandom until really started about 2010. It started growing worse and worse. And I think by the time you got to about 2016, 2017, that's about when I quit reading fan fiction and most of my favorite fandoms, because it had just taken over everything. I couldn't find a good bromance story. Everything had to be slash or homosexual or romantic in nature. And
but that's that's fan fiction, and now we're seeing it in traditional fiction, in regular fiction as well, and it happened later than the fan fiction. I think you're right.
Fan fiction kind of leads, and this is what I've tried to people who work with kids. I go, look at what fan fiction is doing, because these fan fiction is being written a lot of times by kids who are between 12 and 18, depending on the fandom. Sometimes up into their late 20s. But it kind of gives you an idea of where the culture is going to be headed. And so
absolutely.
I think I saw the signs of this about 10, 15 years ago.
And that might explain it. Because it's those kids who grow up to write stuff that's outside fan fiction and then get published, and then it's got a broader release, and they're doing the same things they were doing back, in the late teens, before that, early teens maybe. I think you're right that that's how we tell, is they're like the bellwether.
Yeah, I think the fan fiction, because the kids, a lot of your kids are writing that, and I think that's a lot of way to tell where the kids are at. Especially if you get it. So I also seen this turn to a lot of dark fiction too. And I said, I really started going, where are our kids going? Because a lot of this was about, you could see the depression starting up in some of these younger kids. And as they went along, some of these fandoms got really dark, and now we see an advent of mental health problems, and we see kids who are 13-year-old, 14-year-olds who have been such a spike in mental health issues with younger kids. I think they kind of express themselves if you watch some of the things that they do and they write.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess what disturbs me is not seeing gay relationships in fiction. It's the looking back and saying, well, this older, we've always understood this to be a friendship, but now we're going to say it's gay.
Yeah.
And I guess that disturbs me because I feel like that's trying to satisfy a need that's outside the fiction. The need to be inclusive or to see yourself represented or whatever. And I wish that would be looking forward instead of looking backward. Sam and Frodo would be the number
Captain
one.
Bucky.
Yeah.
Yes,
they were trying to ship them together as a homosexual. Oh, they're in love with each other. No,
Well,
just sometimes
Batman and Robin gets that
man.
too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, all the time.
I'm going, it's like they're cutting off this whole aspect of human relationships by going, all relationships have to be either. They've killed the idea of having a truly platonic relationship. It's like everything has to be romantically involved. And they go, it doesn't have to be romantically involved. You can have friendship and a good, strong friendship. My best friend, she passed away in 2021. And we were as close as, I was closer to her than I was my sister, my real life sister, my real life siblings. For 11 years, we were best friends. And we got accused of it. We had family look at us and go, are you two lesbians? We're going, no, we're just friends. Yeah. But we had so much in common, and we were there for each other, and it's a relationship I'm very thankful for. Even if it was
the military, like civilians looking at, like, just a perfect example, an infantry platoon or an infantry team that spends 24/7 together. You get to play that lovely game of, is it a bromance or are they really gay? Not that it matters, because we do some inappropriate stuff to each other. Like we do the ass pat, all kinds of stuff. The military environment's like, if you want to play that game, it's like, are they just really good friends or do they happen to be homosexual? Not that it matters. Like there's times where I was in the shower, because you'll shower together as a team.
Communal showers are a thing.
Communal showers, and you're washing your hair or you're washing your body, and then your buddy just thinks it's funny to like run his fingers through your hair. And you're both or one guy thought it would be funny to pee on your back while you're washing your hair. Like these are the weird things that happen in the military.
In other words, little boys don't grow up.
No, we just get cooler toys.
We don't get emotional cognitive reasoning until like 45. So I'm like a year into having that power. So
yeah. And what he's talking about, it just escalates and escalates and escalates. So like somebody rubs your hair in the shower, like
you gotta outdo them.
Oh yeah, like you're gonna reach down a little lower, maybe. I remember on my
I can't tell you what that game is called, but
yeah. Well, there have been it was like right before I got out, 2016, 2017, something like that. Several bases, I think to include Fort Drum, had to put out official memos banning that particular game by name. Because it was getting really
nobody
out of
wants
hand.
to back down.
No, because if you back down, then everything you did was for nothing.
Right, the sunk cost fallacy in action.
And I never lost ever.
Next thing
we had this other
sexual act.
Just so we know.
We had this other guy in my unit who also had never lost, and we just called a truce. Like we were never going to play against each other because we were just going to have sex.
And I would win that too.
Yeah.
Well, there was a point where I was teaching a writing seminar at a very Catholic college, and I thank you, JR, for the subtitles.
That was Nick.
That was me. It's always Nick's fault.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I was teaching a unit in there on how to write the difference between men and women. Which, of course, no matter what, whenever I'm doing this, I always tick somebody off. So I figure I'm doing a good job. And I was talking about this point with them, and this is a college that is not afraid of having certain appearances in there that the regular society would say, oh well, that's that must be gay or anything. And it was just a friendly atmosphere. The same college that I was talking about with my friends, where we just started hugging each other. And it was something that we had to kind of relearn, but it was a friendly environment to do it. But I remember specifically talking about how this is not the way that it's always been. And in the discussion, we were talking about what it was like for these students during high school. And some of the young women were saying, like, there was no problem showering together. There's absolutely no problem. No one thought there was anything bad about it. And all of the guys, when topic comes up about men showering together after gym class, they're going like I should say it's half of them. And when I asked them, it was the half that went to a public school. Everyone else had gone to either private school or were homeschooled. And it was an interesting split there, where with the public school was always the avert your eyes in the locker room, don't acknowledge the tackle in the room. And we started talking about how it's a very new sort of thing. And the video that I referenced, I didn't actually have a clip of it to show them, but the video that I referenced was a newsreel from the United States Navy during World War II. And it was a destroyer that in the middle of the Pacific had problems with its engine, so it had to stop and do repairs for a couple of days. And of course, you've got hundreds of sailors who have nothing to do, so they all go swimming. And there are only so many rafts and lifeboats for them to clamber over, so they're clambering over each other in their issued underwear. And none of them seem to have any problem with it. And jokes about the U.S. Navy aside, the fact is, no one had a problem with it. There was nothing going on. These were all candid shots. No one was acting for the camera. That is a very different culture than what we have today. And I already said before, I don't know exactly when it changed, but it did.
I think at some point along the way, and like I get to a point, historically, media has portrayed one visage of what male and female looks like. Mostly predominantly white was what was coming out of Hollywood. And in an effort to correct that, to give more viewpoints out there, and I think that's a laudable thing. I think they overcorrected so far that they made being a man bad. And without that positive role model of how to be a man, everything that would be considered close friendship suddenly got labeled that way. I think that led to it at some level. Yeah. And obviously we're trying very hard to be apolitical on this one, but I do think the lack of masculine role models is a large part. And I think you could track this to the rise in kids being raised without their fathers from a larger sociological standpoint. I also think that somewhere along the way, and we can blame the Victorians, we got a little more prudish. And so, that led to levels of uncomfortability in your own body that made things like physical affection difficult. I think you got away with it in a marriage situation because it's biblically sanctioned, but anything else became difficult for people, and that sort of started that trend where the idea that, you know, look but don't touch friendships were the only options for men, kind of thing. Back to whereas like when I was in the Middle East, the culture shock was seeing the dudes holding hands and hugging each other, but it wasn't gay. Like they weren't interested in each other in that way. It's just what they did because they had a different cultural framework. Hopefully I threaded that needle without offending anyone, but
yeah.
And maybe
No, it's like that. It's like that here in India too. Just with the holding hands and the hugging and stuff. Totally doesn't mean what it would in the U.S. Totally. I mean, they're comfortable with each other, and you'll see, and the women do it too. You'll see them just standing together, and one woman will take her neighbor's hand, and they'll just hold hands. So it's very different. Yeah. So
it's
so
completely
it's
normal. It doesn't have the connotations like it does in the United States.
That Hack and Slash comedy duo that I mentioned before, they did a USO tour over in the Sandbox, and they were joking about one of the products they found in a marketplace there. It was a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio on a bottle of men's perfume. It was not cologne, it was men's perfume.
Mm-hmm.
And it was titled Manly Man on the Titanic.
Nice.
Leonardo DiCaprio, young Leonardo DiCaprio, manly man on the Titanic.
Right.
That is a very different culture.
Yeah.
Jack should have survived. There was room for two on that board.
I know.
Mythbusters proved it, but
yeah. And I don't know if maybe it comes back to the common complaint we've seen all over lately is how much writing and books and media is getting geared toward women and not toward guys. I don't know if that has anything to play in it or not, where they think they're writing for women and what women want. And
well, I know most of the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's pretty much.
Okay, most of the authors writing male fantasy or fiction or romance basically are women. Mm-hmm. It's not men writing these books, and so I always look at it and wonder, how much of this is what women think men are like, even gay men.
That's what I mean, and that's what I mean.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think that's something to maybe ask ourselves is,
that's
where
actually,
is this coming from?
I actually, speaking back to what BamBo talked about with fan fiction, when I was trying to explore some different genres when we first started, because I'd read almost exclusively science fiction and military science fiction at that. So I'm like, well, let me explore the tropes. And I was, money was tight. So I'll read some free stories over there on Reddit or on Wattpad. And you look at these younger people, and I say younger, they were like 16 to 24 range that were writing these werewolf stories. Just because I read fast, I could get through a lot of, try to see what the tropes were. I did learn the tropes on like Wattpad and Royal Road are not always the same as what readers that are paying for their product will want. But when it comes to writing the quote alpha, because that's a common trope in werewolf fiction, their understanding of a man being dominant was damn near abusive and like, why isn't this guy locked up? Kind of send that man to jail. It's the kind where they say they want it in books, and then when they get it in real life, it's like, haul his ass away, officer, on an episode of Cops. Yeah. And so I think the lack of understanding of what positive masculinity looks like with some people, and that comes back to the lack of fathers in lives, you're seeing that sort of play out across culture. And I do think that's why the bromance is so misunderstood. And I think, we kind of beat that horse to death. So let's pivot a little bit. Why do you think bromance stories and whatever we're going to call the female version that's family friendly, why do you think those stories have value? Like we've talked about why they're misconstrued, but why keep them? Why are they good?
Because they're a non-romantic strong bond relationship is very important for a person, because there's a difference between that romance and you've got all those hormones and things going between you and your spouse or you and your boyfriend or your significant other that plays out very differently with how you react with someone who's your best friend and your confidant. Sometimes they need to be your confidant for the romantic relationship. When you want to take your husband and beat his head in with the cast iron skillet, you want that person that you can call and talk to and
run for it, Bonshare, run.
Run, MD, run.
Yeah. No, he's been good. I haven't wanted to knock him. Yesterday was a different story, but today we're doing good.
As long as you remember the lessons we learned from Stabby. If you are going to stab him, make sure not to hit vital areas. So I will say the idea of like that level of close friendship that exceeds the bounds of normal, like, hey, I know what coffee you get and we talk occasionally. I mean, even Shakespeare, like the famous St. Crispin's Day speech, for he who sheds his blood with me this day, like the concept is that's what, like growing up in a military family, like that's what a friend was. It wasn't just an acquaintance who I happen to hang out with occasionally. It was someone when push come to shove, you take a bullet for them. And it wasn't said in the standard way you see in pop culture where everyone has PTSD from everything and, you know, we're ride or die, but, you know, I'm going to snitch on you the first chance it gets to save my ass. Like it actually meant something. I think at some level, modernity has isolated us to the point where we don't have those. And so I think fiction with the bromance can almost be aspirational.
Yes.
Well, it's true. There's been a series of studies that, it's from a psychiatric newsletter that I was reading, but it was been talking about one of the biggest problems that we have, and this connects with mental health, this connects with other things, is we have a pandemic of loneliness. And the actual pandemic a few years ago made this even worse because we were isolated. We were starting to become more and more isolated and dealing with people online. And then we physically were isolated from each other. And a lot of people can't figure out how to bridge that gap to not be isolated anymore. And isolation is not good for us. Lots of studies have been done with, children who don't get a lot of touch as they're growing up and how this makes them react, and how even inmates, why is putting you in solitary confinement such a terrible thing? Well, because not having that interaction with other people, even if they're not great people, they're still other people, and we crave that in general. We tend to be pack animals, even the most introverted among us, to where we do want some level of interaction, and relationships a lot of how we define our world. So it's really important to see positive relationships in our stories and in the media that we create, because that gives us that ability to say, yeah, we can make those kinds of connections. And it's important to have those kinds of connections. It is important to turn off the computer and go out into meet space and meet people, or on the computer, have those relationships that make it so that we are well put together, because we're not very healthy. We have a real problem with loneliness, and these bromances and womances, which is still a stupid word, and whatever it is, I want those people that I'm willing to ride and die for, and I want that in return. It makes us who we are.
Yeah, and I think it helps enrich our human experience to be able to have that broader experience, that broader relational experience than just thinking that all relationships have to be this one style in this one box. And realize that you can have a wide variety of tapestry of how you relate to different people without it all having to be romantic or a certain way. Mm-hmm. And friendships can really teach you a lot about yourself, as well as how to deal with other people. I laugh because I tell my husband that my best friend, she prepared me for marriage. We were roommates for a while, and she prepared me very well for the give and take that's required for marriage. Mm-hmm. I think my marriage is much better than what it would have been if I had not been friends with her for so long before I met my husband.
Well, to quote one of my favorite sources of pithy quotes, G.K. Chesterton, a marriage is a duel to the death which no man of honor can refuse.
Well, I liked what JR said about these stories being aspirational, to play on what you were just saying, BamBo, about what we learn from them. And so I think that's why it's important to see it represented in fiction. I mean, we talk a lot, I don't know if I do, but many people will talk about seeing yourself represented in the stories that you read. And I think it might be better to see other people represented in the stories that you read, so that you see that variation. And so for me, I'm female, so I don't have a bromance in my life, but I can appreciate reading about the men who have these strong, caring relationships, and that's really moving. I was thinking about somebody in our side chat. Somebody brought up Enemy Mine, which is a good movie and an even better book. Honestly, I mean, I will never say that about a novelization, but it was a fantastic book. and the relationship with the movie is very different. But both of them are about two people who are utterly alien to each other, who find out that they're not so alien after all. And that's the sort of thing I want to see. I want to believe that that's possible. And I see that in fiction, maybe not as much as I could, maybe not as much as we really, ought to. But I think there's such a place for that for all sorts of reasons.
And there's value in men having male friendships that's different than men having female friendships. The same thing with female. We need female friends, we need male friends, but men, especially nowadays, they're even more isolated than women are from each other, I think.
Yeah.
And they need to be taught that, shown that you can have male friendships and you don't have to read anything weird into it. It doesn't have to be this one particular straight box or straight lane. Really, boys do seem to really get the short end of the stick these days, and I think it's a shame.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's probably the biggest thing I miss about the military is like my civilian friends I'm just not that close to, and I think that's one of the reasons I was drawn to the fire service, because firefighters are basically just Marines with a different definition of firefight. But I think, but that kind of leads into the reason I think it's so prevalent in those two, in the tactical communities in general, fire, EMS, police, military, all of it, is the thing that really creates a great bromance is trauma bonding or shared hardship or whatever you want to call it, just dealing with awful things together and having to learn to support each other or make fun of it or do whatever you have to do to not, gouge your own eyeballs out when you see that dead kid on the side of the road at 3 a.m. for the firefighter, or see one of your buddies get shot in Afghanistan or whatever. And it's great when you realize you have a really good bromance with one of those dudes. I remember I was on a deployment when I was in the Army. And one of my soldiers comes and finds me in the middle of the night, and he's panicked. Like he's soaked in sweat. He's like, so Sergeant Wise, I need your help. And I turn around and I run to my gear and I grab my entrenching tool and I just ask him, "Where's the body?" And because he's like, "What? Wait, what? What are you talking about?" Sorry, I was like, "Where's the body? Where's?" I'm not gonna say the person's name. I was like, Where is this person? I know you killed him. It's fine. We'll get rid of it. And he's like, "No, I'm just really unhappy with my 2-mile time. I was wondering if you'd run with me."
Oh man, that was way off.
Yep. Let me get rid of this shovel. Yeah, this is a little awkward now.
Hey, Private, take this back to the Humvee BII, please, because I'm not going to be needing it.
See, these are the kind of stories that I've learned from editors that if you put them in a book, they will tell you that it is not possibly real and nobody would ever believe it.
Yeah,
and I've had them tell me that, and I'm like, I can show you the incident statement. I still have the write-up.
Yeah.
It's
that need for the relationships and such and everything. That was one of the reasons why I love that show that I mentioned during the religion questions of Handsome Siblings, which came out during the lockdowns. That was right at the beginning of the lockdowns, and so I'm watching that, and lockdowns weren't really affecting me so much at that particular time because I'm already a homebody. I mean, it's really, people were talking about the disruptions in their lives, and my wife and I were going like, well, going to the grocery store is a little different. But, we just sat around at home a lot. And I still binge that show to the point that my newborn, when he heard the theme music for months afterward, would instantly calm down because it was just so familiar and comforting.
And keep that on repeat, buddy.
Oh yeah, I totally did. It stopped working eventually, but oh well. The thing with that one that felt so familiar. I struggled with chronic depression for years and was still struggling with it. These days it's less of a daily thing for me, but these two boys in the show were raised in isolation. they had no peers. It's not just that they are twins that have been separated. It is that one has been raised by an all-female sect of martial artists, and another one is raised by a gang of criminals as the only child in the area. And it is two very different lives. They have no peers. They have no one that they can talk to. And then they find each other, not knowing at first that they are the other guy is the one that they're supposed to be killing. They've been raised to understand that there is someone out there hunting for them, and they just have this instant connection. And it's of course that they are supposed to be twins and they have this instinctive connection toward each other, but at the same time, it was one of the best bromances that you could possibly have. It really fit what was missing there. Two guys in complete isolation who find their perfect matches separate from the romances that each one builds with women in their lives as the story unfolds. And they still don't, even though the audience knows it, it's not really a spoiler, they don't find out that they're twins until the very last episode. And when they do, they look at each other with fresh eyes, and it's like, of course, why did we not see it before? And it is this great emotional capstone. Sometimes I will take it out and I will watch that scene again just by itself.
Okay. Does anyone else have something they want to weigh in? We can lighten the mood a little bit.
I guess we could have a little bit of hope maybe for the next generation coming up and their fascination with all things 80s right now. It seems to be a big deal going on in the early 90s, because there seem to be a lot of good examples in TV shows and movies of that male-to-male friendship. So maybe some of these kids will pick up on that, and maybe their parents or their uncles and aunts can introduce them to some really good objects, examples.
One can hope, and in the Hollywood bereft of new ideas with their continual reboots, maybe they'll actually reboot a good bromance instead.
The question is, will they leave it a bromance? That's the question.
We have hope. So, all righty. Well, this is going to air the week after Valentine's. We thought that was, or the 17th, so 3 days after Valentine's, which I thought was fitting. So with that in mind, do anybody have any sales that they know they're going to have coming up before I have you guys tell us what you're working on and how to find you?
Yes, the first book in my Crown of Tremontaine series, which is a romantasy series, Servant of the Crown, will be on sale that month for 99 cents for the ebook.
Nice. All right. I will get the link for that, and I'll throw that in the show notes under the sponsors. Anybody else know you're going to have any sales before we let everyone tell how we can stalk you on the interwebs?
I do not know for sure.
All right. Melissa, what are you writing at the moment? Warhamster 27?
No. If I'm not writing the next series in the War Master universe, then I'm doing something seriously wrong. But the War Master series is coming to an end with Volume 10, and then I intend to pick up with a sequel series right after that. So that should be what I'm writing as of this broadcast.
Okay. This got me thinking as you were talking. You know, the other thing we don't really show is the idea that men and women can also be close friends without it being romantic or sexual and the desire to bump uglies. That'd be something that'd be worth its own panel, I think. I'm not sure what we title it, but I think we got to revisit that idea as well. Okay. All right, BamBo. Where can they find you, Melissa?
Oh, right. I am on Facebook and X as M. McShane or M. McShane Writes. I have a website, melissamcshanewrites.com, that leads to my direct sales site. And I also review stuff on Goodreads just for fun.
Outstanding. All right, BamBo, what are you writing at the moment, and then how can they stalk you? I mean, find you?
You can find me at Substack under Bam Boncher, where I will give you a few topics that crosses my mind occasionally as a blog post, or a few short stories I got going, and I'm hoping to have some more added there. Nothing new at the moment, but I hope to have something in before too long up there to post new. Otherwise, you can find me through my husband's website, MD Boncher, who writes the Kinawazi series and the Tales of the Dream Nebula. He is found at residentmedia.art, and you can also reach out to me through him as well. And he does have a new book. He's got a short story that's appearing in the new anthology Deadly Flames. That is,
It's out already.
is it out already? Yep, so it's out already. So he has got a story in there, a very unique tale.
It actually released the day this episode was recorded.
Oh, perfect. So yes, you can find his short story there. It's set in his Dream Nebula universe, and it's a very unique twist on that theme of deadly dragons. So
right.
look him up there, and you can find us on the webs.
All right. Jana, the many personalities thereof. What are you writing at the moment? And then where can we stalk you online? Although be careful, because she does have her feral musketeers who will bromance you to death.
That's right. That's right. Our feral boys, and who knows what they might be up to. Let's see. By February, JR and I are working on a lit RPG series, and that's been trucking along nicely, and we're having a good time with that. We haven't hit the bromances yet, but there's definitely some bromance possibility as we start gathering the party together to go off on their grand adventures. So we'll see. We'll see where that is by that point. It should be well along, I would think. And then I'm also working on urban fantasy. I have got a older series that I'm trying to get completed, and then I have a character by the name of Diana McDonough who has shown up in several different anthologies, and I am starting to feel out what her actual series will be besides all the little snippets that are floating around out there. So always something. And February is a conference month for me, so I will be at Superstars and Life to the Universe and everything, and in March I'll be at Women in Publishing. So if you're at any of those things, please come by, say hi.
You don't have to go to a con. You're a superstar in our books.
Ta-da!
All right. So are you going to post your con schedule on the opalkingdom.com?
Oh, opalkingdompress.com. Yeah, I'll have my con schedule there. And anything else that I think of that the general public needs to know. Con schedule will go up probably tomorrow, because you're now reminding me that I have not updated that page yet. But yeah, busy.
All right, JR, what are you writing at the moment? And then how can we stalk you on the interwebs?
Right now I'm procrastinating writing the 4th book in the Fallen Empire series for Canon Publishing. Mostly because I've been working on a set of Helldiver armor for
awesome.
Cool.
ArsCon, which is this weekend, so it will have come and gone by the time this episode airs. And of course, I waited to the last minute to do that too, so it is not completely done, even though the convention is 3 days from now. But yeah, I'll get it done one way or the other. But anyway, yeah, eventually I'll get back to writing that book for Canon, because they want it out by April. It's close to done. I have a website, jrwise.com. I'm pretty active on Instagram, The Wise Author. Occasionally I check my Facebook. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And what about you, Matt? What are you writing at the moment? And then how can we stalk you on the interwebs?
Well, what I'm writing at the moment is a short story that is due this Friday. That's actually set in my wife's space noir over here. Trying to prove someone's innocence, and if that actually gets accepted, then it'll be in the latest pinup noir from Raconteur Press. If it is not accepted, then it'll eventually be in a collection of short stories for this universe. Either way, it'll eventually be in a collection of short stories for this universe, because why not get paid twice? And then beyond that, I'll be back to writing my space opera. And I'll also be posting more on my blog, so you'll be able to find links to all of that at novelninja.net. So you want some sci-fi, you want some how-tos, you go over there. It's an editor's blog, so there's lots of people, lots and lots of posts telling writers how they're doing it wrong. So I'm trying to help you do it right. That's all.
Just for your record, if you try to make sure you get paid twice, sometimes the IRS will audit you. Don't panic. Your lawyer can help you out. Just get a little bit creative. List things under miscellaneous. The Goodfellas taught us that. So that way you can claim your proceeds. Just don't put nothing, because then they're going to come for you. Remember, Al Capone was taken down by the IRS and not the FBI.
This is why I have a CPA.
Yep.
All right, Nick, what comic are we working on before we wrap this puppy up?
Oh, this is getting released in February, so I'll probably be halfway done with Corvid and Sparrow. It's a female-led superhero duo akin to like Batman and Robin, just less homoerotica, and or maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Our Speedster comic should be well within its crowdfunding campaign, and we'll be gearing up for Phantom Hawk Resolute. So it's going to be a busy year for Apogee Comics. We want to get at least 4 books out this year, so we're really kind of just grinding hard on this.
All right. And you can find us, dear listener, on our link tree at linktr.ee, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTube, the TikToks, the Twitters, our Spotify website, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. And more importantly, we got our email over there at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com for professional purposes only. That means you too, Nick. I saw what you sent. Save the shenanigans for Madam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee until it flows out of every pore in their body, and then they'll drink it again.
Ouch.
Ew, no.
All right. Speaking of...
save that for the Toxic Avenger panel.
All right. So speaking of all the awesome things, this is the part where I forgot and I almost missed it, but I would like to remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books, and that really does matter, especially if you find niche subjects that you like. Review the heck out of it, so that way other people will find it and you get more of what you love. That's kind of how this works. And with that, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time. We'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Thank you all for coming on. I think we did a really good job of skirting the line about staying apolitical, because, ain't nobody got time for that nonsense. So great job, everyone. Hats off to you. And with that, I'm going to hit the end button. Don't cuss yet, Nick. Hold it.